Katie Dickson is a horticulturist with Moore Farms Botanical Garden, and she does the downtown plantings, which are very different from most downtown plantings. How do you get to pick things out? You just dream with catalogs?
Essentially, yes. I get a lot of creative license, and I get to research fabulous plants, both native and exotic at times, and I treat the city as my palette, basically.
Yeah. Well, and look what a picture you painted for us. And so this is that time of year when it's like, oh my Lord, I want to have something fresh to make me feel good inside the house. And a lot of people don't realize that there is stuff out there.
Absolutely. So that's what I wanted to showcase today is even though we're in that kind of awkward transitional season, post-Christmas and holiday, and kind of pre-spring and summer, you can still have a really beautiful centerpiece.
It is South Carolina.
Yes.
Well, let's start with some of the things that you brought and tell people what they are and which ones are things that you've purchased and which ones are things that were actually gathered in the garden.
Certainly. So I'll kind of preface by saying that most of this was just harvested from Moore Farms Botanic Garden. So I'm very fortunate I got to just go out with my buckets. However, it is good to point out that sometimes you need to augment with flowers that might be kind of off season. So in this case, I did bring some standard roses with me. But I wanted to show you a few things today, Amanda. So I have these vintage bottles. I probably bought them for $1 or $2 a piece at an antique mall, and that's just a really easy way to display anemones or other cut springtime bulbs.
Things that aren't so full and have a long stem that don't stand up by themselves so much. And
Exactly.
I love the way you've even got it sitting on a piece of glass, a reflector, because it just makes everything have a lot more dimension to it, doesn't it?
Agreed. A really inexpensive mirror plate kind of elevates the design. And you can also like throw some votives around it, some pretty tea lights. So this is probably one of my favorites. I'm very partial to the Sonnet series snapdragons.
This is a snapdragon.
And it has really excellent landscape value. You can use them in container plantings. They tend to be taller and more upright of a plant. We also utilize a very different series called Montego series, but those are more of a bun shape and not as great of a cut flower. The Sonnet series lends itself well to being cut out of the backyard and put it in a vase. And this is Sonnet bronze.
Perfectly beautiful. And then you've got that great gray foliage. Let's talk about that.
Yes, and so this beautiful velvet foliage, a lot of people mistake it for lamb's ear, but while the texture is similar, it's actually called Dusty Miller. This particular variety is called Cirrus, like the cloud, cirrus, and there are many other kinds of Dusty Miller. Some are more dissected and a little more frilly, but I like this lobed version.
Now I know a lot of your little hidden spots are somewhat protected. Has this done well with when we get those real cold weather days?
Yes, so I'm very fortunate that none of my Dusty Miller has like flopped or burned. So we have a lot of little microclimates in the urban setting, lots of brick walls that stay warm longer, and so I'm able to keep these things looking good.
And then since you are just had to be over the top, great red roses from the forest.
Yes. So I did a little cheat there, a little halfway homemade.
But you know, they're perfectly beautiful. And so, I mean, that's something for a bridesmaid's luncheon or for any occasion could not be more beautiful. And you've got it in a pretty inexpensive container. And you've done something to make the container perfectly lovely. Tell us what you've done.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of hiding the stems and mechanics. Sometimes you're shoving wires and it looks a little nasty, so you can line the inside of your vessel with a cast iron leaf. And I have one I can show you up close. This is a variegated one, so to me this is just beautiful. It looks like paint strokes.
And when I've used this, I do exactly what you do. The stem makes it stiff. So I cut the stem, and then you can just fold it up, I believe, like that, and slip it down into the container. And if it's too big, you can always cut it.
Just trim it.
Just trim it so that it fits,
Exactly. And then the water inside your vessel will hold it against the walls, and it looks beautiful.
And if people want to, there are even ways that you can use them on the outside, and then just come in with a pin of some sort and attach it there. It's wonderful to have the beautiful one you do, but if you don't, just even the regular green one can work very well.
Exactly. I rely on this so heavily. And you can see as an alternative way to line a vase, I've used some citrus slices here.
Fun.
Yeah, so I had a lemon on my counter and I just cut it into thin slices and lined the inside.
Yeah. How about that? Yeah. Too much fun. Well, let's talk about this little fella because he's kind of funky and a little tighter.
Sure. So that is our little foxtail fern, our little brushy kind of texture here.
One of the springerai.
Springerai. And so I coupled it with this pittosporum, this nice variegated pittosporum.
And one of the things you did here, if I'm going to spin this around and let them see, you folded the aspidistra leaf.
That's just a quick thing. Takes 2 seconds, and I think it adds a little elegant touch.
I think people like to see different textures. Look at all the textures we've got. We've got this really kind of conifer almost like, and then we've got this fuzzy, as you said, Dr. Seuss, and then typical leaves, and then this big, broad, it's like a brush stroke.
Exactly. I say put as much texture in as you can.
And then in this one, again, pretty much just very simple. You added a little bit of conifer to this.
Exactly. So that's our blue Arizona cypress, and I'm a big fan of it because it is almost a true blue, and it has these little tiny little pine cones on it, but I think they're so special, and they look great all winter long in arrangements. You can tuck them into wreaths, and as you can see, I coupled that with the Dusty Miller we spoke about. This is germander poking out of the top of the arrangement. That's a very wonderful shrub if you have a droughty area. In Lake City, we have a lot of really unirrigated hot spots, and I just put germander everywhere.
So in an herb garden situation where you had thyme and things like that, things that didn't like so much water, the germander would work just fine.
Perfect. It would be a perfect companion plant. And because we were going with kind of the silver and blue theme here, I just coupled it with some white roses and called it a day.
And of course, one of the wonderful things about this is, oh my goodness.
Super fragrant.
The fragrance is just terrific.
The oils in that are awesome.
Oh, just good. And then you said that sometimes you even go to the craft store, and we all have to do that sometimes.
Yes, indeed.
So I was admiring. I said, gosh, this is the best looking cotton I've ever seen.
I can't take credit. So so even though we do grow cotton in small amounts on our property, it doesn't always look that good months later. Sometimes we try to save it and bag it, but you know, sometimes I just pull a little hack and go purchase it.
And so you said, and this has been treated and wired so that it's going to hold its shape.
Exactly. So this would be better for a presentation.
Because I had some that I gathered earlier this year from a farmer who allowed me to stop, and you can see that it's starting to droop. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So you know, even though we it's fun to gather things ourselves, we don't have to be locked in by stuff that's just in the yard, do we?
Exactly. I think just kind of mix and match what you have, be resourceful.
Yeah. Well, I think we are going to let you do something quickly because we've already had so much fun talking.
Okay.
I'm going to let you do something quickly, and I'm just going to watch and enjoy.
Sure. Okay. So we'll incorporate a few of the things we spoke about, Amanda. So I was simply cutting the...
I'm going to move this
up. Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. So I just cut that thick stem because that makes it really hard to bend. And just kind of make a loop. We already have these prepared vases, so just stick
when
that.
When you let him go, he's going to expand. And
that's
whoop,
it.
There you go. He's ready to go.
Love that.
All right.
Turgor pressure, so that keeps it nice and taut. And then really, there's no rules with flower arranging. Just use things that you love. But I will say, a key,
is delightful.
Yeah, I love this evergreen. Is just start with the coarser elements first and then finish with the most delicate flowers so you don't destroy them in the process. But I'll just do a lot of greenery, I think, for this. And I did want to mention too, Amanda, something I found very helpful is to have a toolkit. If you would Vanna White this for me. That is probably the best $7 I ever spent at the store.
And it should have bug spray and Band-Aids in it as well.
Sure.
I found that out.
While you're harvesting, you may need those things. But certainly, I used to be a little bit disorganized, and that keeps all of my floral picks and wire and tape and all that good stuff.
Okay.
So that is an important thing to invest in. And also, when I'm putting these elements down in the vase, I'm trying to strip the bottom leaves just to prevent bacteria and things like that.
It just keeps it from getting quite so
exactly
tight in there.
Sure.
Okay, a little bit of Nandina.
Indeed. And so Nandina kind of gets a bad rap because there are aggressive types, but we tend to use varieties that are hybrids and they're meant to be a little bit more tame. So I don't want any hate mail about Nandina. So just kind of tucking that.
And I think now we're going to
if you
wrap this up and just
Sure.
put in those wonderful carnations that you are going to turn into a peony.
Yes, so this is probably one of my favorite hacks, is to just take a plain old standard carnation, grab a couple of them, bunch them together, and then with floral cheap.
Lasts wonderfully.
Exactly. They're more readily available year-round. And then at the base of all of your stems, just pinch it as well as you can.
And use that stretchy floral tape.
That's it, floral tape. And then from the top, it kind of gives the appearance of a peony, which are out of season more often than not.
And so expensive that even if they were in season, I don't know how we could. Okay, well, let's pop that in.
So then you can pop that in for color. And then we can just add maybe some standard roses and a lily, and I think that would be pretty.
Okay.
And I will mention real quickly with lilies.
Be sure to pull all the stamens
Exactly.
off because they'll fall on the table and get everything dyed. Okay.
And I have learned that if you do get the pollen on the petals themselves, don't brush it with your finger. Take the time to blow it off.
Blow
exactly.
It off,
Because you'll have a bigger mess. And then my roses are a little more delicate, and so I'm just doing that last.
What a pretty red.
Yeah. These are
just like greens. There's so many reds, aren't there?
Very bold. That's it.
So, Katie, if people want to know more about what goes on down there in Lake City and come to visit, what's the best way to find that information?
So the quickest way would be to follow any of our social media outlets, and especially our website, which is morefarmsbg.org. And I would love to see folks come and visit us and enjoy our urban garden.
And I must say, if you go, do take your appetite. Wonderful places to eat there. Katie, thanks so much for coming and bringing joy to us on a February day.
Thank you so much.